Hi, I'm Kayla Hill Bateman. I am an accountant for a rural electric cooperative. I'm also a wife and a mother to two sweet boys. I was intrigued by this book, Appetite for America, by Stephen Freed, and the Harvey Girls movie. What stood out to me about Fred Harvey's story was that it's the epitome of the American dream. The American dream, by definition, is a set of ideals in which freedom includes the opportunity for prosperity and success, and an upward social mobility for the family and children, achieved through hard work in a society with few barriers. Although Fred Harvey had many barriers, not just a few, he was still able to reach the American dream. He was an immigrant that came with nothing to America and created a massive hospitality empire. It's a true rags to riches story. The book details his life, the good and the bad he had to overcome to become one of the most successful businessmen of the time. The book not only details Fred Harvey's journey, but also the United States' journey as a country. One thing that stood out to me is on page 97. The fact that this new national standard of time was put into place by the railroads and not by the government gave a fair indication on who was really running the country. I agree with this fact. The railroads were the new technology at that time. By creating the time zones, the railroads were able to run more efficiently. You have to think about what the technology was at that time. Telegraph, newspapers, standard mail, which the tidbit about the Pony Express was very interesting. The railroads did run the country. They were ones that were expanding, reaching to places most Americans could only dream of. Now, luckily, Fred Harvey was a part of this railroad takeover, so to speak. This time zone development was a fantastic marketing strategy. As the railroads ran more efficiently, and now there were certain time arrivals for trains and departures, Fred was able to run his eating houses more efficiently. Another point was on page 132. Most Americans today have never heard of the Panic of 1893 and the subsequent 4-year bottoming out that many economists still believe was every bit as bad as the Great Depression of 1929. I agree with this statement for several reasons. I am one of those Americans who has never heard of this. The fact that Fred Harvey survived this with most money in hand is amazing. In a time when the railroads were a huge commerce for this country, this was a heavy blow. Businesses, banks, stock exchanges were just getting their foothold in this country, and then this happened. This was also when the Pullman strikes happened. One of Fred Harvey's largest supporters and friends. He was building the state-of-the-art dining cars. When the Depression hit, the factory workers went on strike. This strike eventually led to one of the country's very first unions, the American Railroad Union, by Eugene V. Debs. The Depression started making the railroad companies die. The Santa Fe did also, in November of 1893. Luckily for Fred, he was a savvy businessman and figured out a new marketing strategy, tourism. My favorite part of Fred Harvey's life is how he brought Americans to the Southwest and vice versa by his hotels and his restaurants. Page 183. He used the Southwest to his marketing advantage. Americans on the East Coast were fascinated by the Wild West, the tall tales of Billy the Kid and Doc Holliday's crew. Fred Harvey was great at designing his eateries and hotels in line with his surroundings, much of the Native American territories at that time. He has based his restaurants and hotels around this culture, the architecture, the artifacts, the art. I personally love the Southwest culture. Santa Fe is one of the most beautiful places to visit. I'm also enthralled by the Native American history right out my back door through the Caprock Canyons. When the railroad was on the downhill slide, better highway transportation and airplanes were being developed. Fred still used the Southwest to his marketing advantage. People are fascinated by things they don't know much about. In fact, one of Harvey's houses, the El Tovar, is still in operation today in Grand Canyon, Arizona. Resorts like the Grand Canyon Lodges still credit Fred Harvey in the development of the interests of Southwest culture and bringing civilization to uncharted territory. Oh, the Harvey girls. Fred Harvey was one of the first businessmen that employed a massive workforce of women. Men were mainly waiters at that time. A good friend of Fred's suggested he employ women to bring a calm and a peace to the Wild West. Fred gave it a try, and lo and behold, it worked. The Harvey girls were to be kind, sincere, respectful, and modest women. Harvey girls were no saloon girls. Many came for different reasons: money for family, better education, and some to possibly find a future husband. In the article, The Harvey Girls, A Slice of American History, it states that Will Rogers once said Harvey and his Harvey girls kept the West in food and wives. A stat states that 20,000 Harvey girls ended up becoming wives to cowboys and railroad workers in the West. As many as 100,000 girls worked for the Harvey houses, an amazing feat in a time when respectable jobs for women were scarce. Fred Harvey saw a chance, and boy did it pay off. In addition to the points I mentioned, I also want to state a few tidbits from the book that I enjoyed. Like Fred Harvey selling to Britain and seeing all the boxes of the Statue of Liberty, the love his family had for him even in his absence, they even kept the Fred Harvey name for the company even after his death. I especially love the recipes in the back of the book. I think it just tied what Fred Harvey was about all together. Overall, the book was great, and so was the Harvey Girls movie. I was unfortunate that I did not know much about Fred Harvey or the Harvey Girls going into this, and so it was a great learning experience for me. Thank you.